Hey, I'm going to get started by just welcoming all of you guys to Wat Tung. Welcome. Nice to see all of you guys this morning. Sawadee Kap. This is our group learning program where each Sunday and Wednesday I get together with students, helping them to understand the path to enlightenment. The individual that we refer to as the Buddha figured out over 2,500 years ago how to attain enlightenment. What enlightenment is where the mind has been trained to the point where it's peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. This is a permanent mental state that you'll be experiencing for the rest of your life, where an individual no longer experiences any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others can be eliminated from the mind. Oftentimes people think that these feelings are being caused by something externally, or maybe you might think your mom and dad or brothers and sisters are annoying you, or your boss is irritating you. This isn't actually true. It's one's own mind that is actually causing these feelings, and that's why you can actually eliminate them. Everything in the teachings of the Buddha is about training your mind. There aren't any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer in the teachings of the Buddha. If you're seeing those kinds of things associated with the teachings of the Buddha, they're actually misunderstandings of his teachings. He never taught any of those kinds of things. The teachings of the Buddha aren't about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. It's about learning, growing, and developing in this life so that you can experience the peace and joy of this enlightened mental state. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to guide you in a meditation session, and then afterwards I'm just going to open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to the teachings of the Buddha. I'll probably share a little bit of his teachings with you guys. On Sundays, I go chapter by chapter in this book, helping students to be able to understand his teachings. And then on Wednesdays, we just do meditation and then just open up to whatever questions you guys have. That way you can ask any and all questions that you like. And we have various courses and classes and retreats here as well. Everything's available for you at no cost. You can learn and grow and develop on this path and experience this improvement that the Buddha taught, this better way of life. So what I'm going to do is share with you guys loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that essentially rewires your mind to eliminate anger, hatred, ill will, and all the lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, and things like this. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't even have the slightest dislike towards other people. Oftentimes people think that the dislike that you have in your mind towards others is coming from those people, but in reality it's coming from your own mind. What the mind has is a craving for permanence. It's craving, wanting, and expecting everyone to be a certain way. And if people meet your expectations and do things your way, you will like them. But if they don't do things your way, the mind will dislike them. And this is the mind craving for everyone in the world to be a certain way. And with the unenlightened mind's ego, it thinks that my way is the right way and everybody else's way is the wrong way. So the mind will think my way is the right way, and when people do it my way, I will like them. But when they don't do it my way, the mind will dislike them. So you can get to a point where you rewire this, and you get to the point where you can have love and kindness for all beings. What loving kindness is where you have a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, active goodwill towards others. So the way that we do this meditation is we start with some chanting in order to ease the mind into meditation. And if you guys would like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. I have the chanting sheets over there on the cabinet. You're welcome to help yourself to get one. And then you can chant along because it actually helps to ease your mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. For those of you guys that are online, you can get access to this by going to our website, buddhadailywisdom.com. If you click on free books, you can scroll down towards the middle of that page and you'll see the daily chanting sheet there. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to commit the teachings to memory. Everything that he taught was oral, so every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. This is a learning tool, is a learning device. So there isn't anything mystical or magical here. It's not about prayer or worship or anything like that. You can see from the origins of chanting that it was just used as a learning tool, as a learning device. So today we use it as a way to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. If you read the English translations on the chants, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't even think the Buddha created these chants himself, because the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and said, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me, right? This would be ego if somebody did this. This would be putting yourself above other people. And an individual, by the time you've gotten to enlightenment, you don't judge people. You don't look down on people and measure and compare others. So I'm sure the Buddha wouldn't have created these chants. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you might actually have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So that's why I think these chants actually came from his students. So we're going to be using those as we ease into the meditation. Then I'm going to be guiding you in what's called breathing mindfulness meditation. This is a meditation where you focus on the breath, and anytime the mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go and come back to the breath. This is training your mind to let go, because that's what's actually causing the mind to be discontent, is that it's holding on, craving permanence. We'll talk about more of this after our meditation. So then after I do that guidance on the breathing mindfulness meditation, we'll have a period of time of quietness where we're just all meditating together. Everyone here at the temple and anyone joining online will just be meditating. Now, during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping, someone here might cough or sneeze. This is all completely normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, you will cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated when you hear a sound, because you live in an impermanent world. Things are constantly changing, but the unenlightened mind craves permanence. That's why it's causing itself to be discontent, because it craves for things to be permanent when in reality, everything around you is constantly changing. It is impermanent. So during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. And if you're in meditation, understanding that that's normal and that's the way the world's constructed, that things are going to arise, change, and fade away, you can be at ease and just understand the world's functioning exactly the way it's intended to function, with impermanence. After the period of time of quietness with breathing mindfulness meditation, I'm going to come back in with some guidance on loving kindness meditation. During this period of time of guidance, you're going to hear me saying things like, may I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness in the suffering it causes. I'm going to be saying that on the out breath, and you would be wise to repeat that inside your own mind on the out breath. Then you're going to hear me move to other rings, like may mom and dad be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. It's important to understand that this isn't trying to change mom and dad. You can't change other people through your meditation. If it was possible to change others through your meditation, a bunch of us would get together and meditate, and there'd be no such thing as rapes and child abuse and murders and all those kinds of things. This meditation is to change your mind. This isn't invoking some special power to change mom and dad. This is in order for you to cultivate loving kindness in your mind for these different rings that we're actually going to go through. We're going to eventually get to all beings. Then we're going to go back to breathing mindfulness meditation. Then we're going to come out of that with some more chanting. The way that I think about it is like a loving kindness sandwich, that in the middle, you've got loving kindness. Then the part just outside of that, the lettuce and tomato, is the breathing mindfulness meditation. Then the bread holding it all together, this is the chanting. So this is going to be the structure of our meditation. I'll guide you guys through this, and you'll be able to practice it today and kind of get some experience with it. And then we'll talk about it some more after the meditation. In terms of your body position for meditation, you can sit however you like. There's actually 4 positions that the Buddha taught for meditation. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking, because your body can't be in the same position permanently. It's not possible. So he needed to share these different positions so you could use them at different times. It's kind of like a tool belt that you assemble as part of your journey to enlightenment, and then you use these different tools at different times. So oftentimes people are learning in the seated position. So I'll share some guidance with you on the seated position, but just know that there's these other positions that you can use as well. And you can sit however you like, whether you're on the floor, in a chair, maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa, in a wheelchair. You can really sit however you like. So you can take what I'm sharing with you as recommendations or suggestions that you're welcome to use. But even if you find something on your own that isn't something I taught, that's okay. You can use that too. Because what's important is that your body's comfortable, not painful and not luxurious, but comfortable. So if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. Again, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here too. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. The same thing's true for anybody in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. Some people like to sit with their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting here in a chair with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you too. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect, with the sternum up and the shoulders back. It'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you're real rigid with the upper body, your mind could be overactive or uptight. Meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. So again, I'm going to do some chanting to ease us into the meditation, and then you can join in if you like at any time. Again, by having the sternum up and shoulders back, not only does it keep the mind attentive and alert, but it also makes it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Wat Tung Mahakawanhang Apiwateyami Sawakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusarang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect. Just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here, you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Then I'll be back with more guidance on loving kindness meditation. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Continuing to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Repeat these phrases in the mind on the out breath. May I be peaceful. May I be safe. May I be well. May I be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May mom and dad be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May my family, friends, co-workers, and neighbors all be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May all those who have caused me harm be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May all those who I have harmed be peaceful. May they be safe. May they be well. May they be free of all discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. May all beings, wherever they reside, be peaceful. May all beings be safe. May all beings be well. May all beings be free of discontentedness and the suffering that it causes. Now return back to breathing mindfulness meditation, focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Sama Sambuddho Mahakawa Wat Tung Mahakawanhang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Sama Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato สัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสรังปุตโตภาควาติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning to all of you guys. Nice to see everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. This is called loving kindness meditation. This is a meditation that's going to help you completely eliminate all your anger, frustration, agitation, annoyance, even the slightest dislike towards other people. Like I mentioned, oftentimes people think this is coming from other people, but it's actually coming from your own mind. This is why you can eliminate it. Whereas if it was coming from other people, you'd never actually be able to eliminate it. The Buddha helped you to be able to understand how to get to this enlightened mental state. He figured out how to do this 2,500 years ago, and then he dedicated the rest of his life to sharing those teachings that he discovered with countless people. He was born in 563 BC in a place that we refer to as Nepal, and he taught in northeast India. He was destined to become a king, but he stepped away from that by the age of 29, and he started to train his mind to be able to figure out how to get to this enlightened mental state. By the age of 35, he had figured this out, and then he taught for the next 45 years, helping countless people get to enlightenment. And he died in 483 BCE. What he did was help you to understand the world around you. He helped you to cultivate wisdom. When we talk about awakening the mind, what this means is cultivation of wisdom, because the mind in the unenlightened state lacks wisdom about the world around you. And because of that, the mind will struggle and it will have difficulties, because when you live in a world that you don't understand, you'll make unwise decisions, and this is going to produce unwholesome results for you. So, for example, when we were growing up as children, we didn't understand the natural law of gravity. And because we didn't understand that natural law of gravity, we really struggled in the world. We had difficulties. We fell down, we hit our elbows, we bumped our head, we broke our toys, we might have started bleeding from our knees and things like this, because we were making unwise decisions, and this natural law of gravity was affecting us whether we were aware of it or not. We never believed in the natural law of gravity. We actually can see the truth for ourselves. We know that it's there because we can see it with our own eyes, right? Well, there's other natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And just like we cultivated wisdom of the natural law of gravity, there's these other laws that you can cultivate wisdom about. Because when we cultivated wisdom about the natural law of gravity, we now start making wiser and wiser decisions. By the time we're 10, 12, 14 years old, we started learning to tie our shoes a bit tighter. We stopped being so giddy and bouncing around like a kid all the time. We started making wise decisions. And now we can actually climb ladders, we can ride bicycles, we can fly all over the world on airplanes, because you might say we fully awoke to the natural law of gravity. In other words, we cultivated wisdom about this natural law. Well, there's other natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of them or not. And just like the natural law of gravity affected you, whether you're aware of it or not, these other natural laws are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And what the Buddha is helping you to do is cultivate wisdom about these natural laws. Because when you lack wisdom about them, you will tend to have struggles and difficulties in the world. That's what the stress and anxiety, the anger, the frustration, and all these other discontent feelings are, is it's the mind struggling to live in a world that you don't understand. If you've ever watched the news, or if you've ever heard from your family members and you just thought, I don't understand why they keep doing that. That's the mind not understanding the world that you live in. So by you cultivating wisdom about the world that you live in, now you can actually make wiser and wiser decisions, and the mind can navigate the world peacefully and with ease. But as long as the mind doesn't have that wisdom, it will continue to make unwise decisions and then experience unwholesome results. And what the mind typically does when you experience unwholesome results in your day-to-day life is the mind will typically blame this on other people. It'll think that it's other people who are causing me to experience this particular thing. Or sometimes people say it's good luck or bad luck, or it's destiny or fate, or it's some being called God or some entity called the universe. Or again, people will blame what they experience on other people. Well, if you subscribe to this type of thinking, that means you're stuck, you're locked in, because you can never change any of those kinds of things. You can't change good luck or bad luck. You can't change destiny or fate. You can't change a being called God or some entity called the universe, and you can't change other people. But when you awaken to true reality, what you understand is that it's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result that you experience in your day-to-day life. And if you don't particularly care for the things that you experience in your day-to-day life, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But as long as we think it's good luck or bad luck, destiny or fate, God or some entity called a universe, or if it's other people, then we never cultivate the wisdom to make improved decisions. So the Buddha is helping you to be able to cultivate wisdom to make improved decisions. Because these things like good luck, bad luck, destiny and fate, and things like this, it doesn't actually exist. That it's not the true cause of why you're experiencing what you experience. So if I was walking down the beach, for example, and the wind is blowing in my face, and I'm kicking up sand, and this sand is blowing in my face, and I think, this is good luck or bad luck, or this is destiny or my fate, or this is God or some entity called the universe that is causing this, or this is other people that are causing this, then I never cultivate the wisdom to understand that it's my own decisions that are leading to any particular result that I'm experiencing. So therefore I keep doing it and I keep experiencing the same unwholesome results. But you can cultivate wisdom to see the true reality that it's your own decisions that are leading to any particular result that you're experiencing. If you're having trouble seeing this for yourself, ask yourself these questions. Who chose where you're sitting right now? Who chose whether or not you had breakfast this morning? Who chose the clothing that you're wearing? Who chose the hairstyle that you have? Who chose where you live? Who chose where you work? Who chooses the friends that you spend time with? As you can see here, each one of these decisions are decisions that you're making. And you can actually cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But if we keep thinking or we keep believing that it's other people or any of these other things that are causing what we experience, we never have the opportunity to cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and experience improved results. Because by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You will experience complete peace. It's permanent mental state that your mind gradually works towards over time. One of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha is some people think that he sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. And this isn't actually true. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And you know this to be true because everything in your life has been that way. Whether it's to read, write, or speak a certain language, it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. Or maybe there's some job or occupation that you have, a certain skill. That was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that allowed you to accomplish that. So you can gradually learn how to get to this point where your mind's peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, where you no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. By the time you train your mind, you'll notice that you have focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Because the Buddha discovered these individual pollutions that are in the mind, and he figured out the tools and the techniques of how to eliminate them. So all these different things that he's teaching you is to eradicate these pollutions out of the mind. And when you do, the mind starts performing optimally. Right now, you might actually lack concentration, focus, or memory or clarity of mind. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll notice that your personal and professional relationships are all harmonious. Right now, there might be a certain amount of bitterness, hostility in your relationships, where when you're bitter and harsh and hostile, that's all coming back to you in your relationships. And again, oftentimes people think that it's other people who are causing you to do that. But nobody can insert a feeling into your mind. It's just not possible. It's physically impossible. So when you're being bitter, harsh, and hostile, you can see all that's coming back to you. That's the natural law that the Buddha is teaching you. Some people refer to this natural law as karma. This is the Sanskrit version of that. In the original teachings of the Buddha, which are in the Pali language, it's referred to as kamma. This word kamma means cause and effect, or action and result, the results of your decisions. It's nothing mystical or magical. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. It's none of those kinds of things. It's a sequence of events of when you make a certain decision, either wisely or unwisely, it's going to produce either a wholesome kamma or wholesome results, or unwholesome kamma or unwholesome results. And the more that you awaken or cultivate wisdom about this natural law, you can see the truth for yourself that this natural law exists. And now you can actually navigate the world peacefully, making wise decisions through this natural law. But as long as you lack wisdom of it, you'll tend to make unwise decisions. You'll experience unwholesome results. And that's where the mind will typically blame it on somebody else, or good luck or bad luck, destiny or fate, God, or some entity called the universe. But you can get to a point where you're not doing that, where you can see true reality, that it's your own mind that's making certain decisions, and then you experience those results. So the Buddha is teaching you how to train your mind. And one of the first things that you need to understand is something called the Four Noble Truths. This is his very first teaching. I'm actually going to be teaching it this weekend on Sunday, because on Sunday, this same program at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. here at the temple, I'll be teaching his very first teaching, which in 4 simple statements, he explains to you the problem in the mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. And as I mentioned, none of the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief. You can independently verify what he's teaching. He's helping you to be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, so that then you can actually eliminate it. You can apply the training to be able to eliminate it. What's causing the mind to experience things like anger, sadness, frustration, and others is that the mind is craving permanence, wanting, longing, expecting things to be a certain way. And the mind can only be happy if it gets what it wants. And if the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets a painful feeling like anger, sadness, frustration, or others. So for example, if you wake up in the morning and it's sunny outside and you get so excited that it's sunny, yay, it's sunny. The mind's getting what it wants. It's happy, it's sunny. But that sun is not permanent. The sun is impermanent. So if you base your inner feeling of happiness on the sun, that means when it rains, you'll be sad or frustrated. Or if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, that means when it goes down here, you'll be sad and frustrated or agitated or annoyed. The only thing that's happened here is change. It went from sun to rain, or where the bank account balance went from here to here. You can see there's no other people even involved. It's only one's own decisions that we're experiencing. And now when the mind is craving permanence, while you live in an impermanent world, the mind will really struggle. So here's some other examples for you so you can see this for yourself. Because remember, don't believe anything. Don't believe me. Don't believe what I write in books. Don't believe anybody else. You need to see the truth for yourself, because if you can see what's causing your discontent feelings, then you can actually eliminate them. Think back to when we were little kids. We used to go to our mom and dad and we would say, "Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream?" And they're like, "Sure, here you go. Here's your chocolate and ice cream." And we're like, "Thank you, Mommy and Daddy. You're the best Mommy and Daddy ever." And then the second day came around. We said, "Mommy and Daddy, can I have chocolate and ice cream?" And they said, "Sure, here you go. Here's your chocolate and ice cream." And we said, "Thank you, Mommy and Daddy. You're the best Mommy and Daddy ever." And then the third day came around. We said, "Mommy and Daddy, can we have chocolate and ice cream? Can we have a chocolate and ice cream?" They said, "No." You're the worst Mommy and Daddy ever. Right? This is the mind not getting what it wants. The mind is longing and yearning. It's not mom and dad that are causing the anger and frustration. It's inside one's own mind. It's craving chocolate and ice cream to be permanent. And any day when the mind gets that chocolate and ice cream, it's so happy and excited. But when the mind doesn't get what it wants and what it expects, then it gets angry and frustrated. You can see this if you've been in a relationship with a boyfriend or girlfriend. When you guys first came together, you might have been so happy and so excited about that. You guys were getting to know each other. You had somebody new in your life that was showing you affection. Maybe they were sending you text messages or calling you and checking in on you. Maybe they were inviting you to the movies, going to dinner. Maybe you're going to the park, taking nice walks, having great conversations. Maybe you were even having intimate contact together, and you're getting all these pleasant feelings because your expectations were very low. You didn't really want anything from this person other than to get to know them. But then over time, your expectations grew, and so did theirs. And you couldn't meet their expectations permanently, and they couldn't meet your expectations permanently. And then you guys might have broke up and you separated. And now you might have been really angry or frustrated, or you might have been lonely or bored or missing this person. It wasn't your love that was causing this. This is the mind holding on and craving permanence, when in reality, everything around you is impermanent. Even if you guys were together for the rest of your life, more likely than not, one of you would have died first. And this relationship was always impermanent. It was never going to be permanent, but the mind craves for it to be permanent. And as long as the mind's getting what it wants, which is this relationship, there's a certain amount of comfort. But when the mind experiences this breakup, which all that is impermanence, it's change, the mind doesn't like that. So one of the ways to say this is, yes, the mind craves permanence, but another way to say it is that the mind does not like impermanence. It doesn't like change. Look at your life. Look at a recent situation where you've been angry or sad or frustrated, lonely or bored or some other discontent feeling. It might have been this morning or yesterday or last week. What was it that your mind was longing, yearning for? What was it that you wanted and you expected? And if you would have gotten it, you would have been happy. But because the mind didn't get what it wanted or expected, it was angry or sad or frustrated or some other discontent feeling. Maybe you showed up to the airport so excited to go to Thailand. Maybe you just couldn't wait to get here. Maybe you were thinking about the mango and sticky rice. Maybe you're thinking about the massages or the elephants or some other things like this. And you might have been so excited to go to Thailand. And you might have showed up to the airport and they informed you that your flight was delayed or it was canceled. And now you might have been frustrated or angry. It wasn't the airline company that caused that. That was the mind craving permanence. I want every single airplane to take off on time, especially the ones you're on, right? You want all of them to take off on time. That's the mind craving permanence. And it's impossible. You live in an impermanent world. There's going to be weather issues. There's going to be crew issues. There's going to be maintenance issues. At some point, you're going to meet with impermanence. These flights are not all going to be on time. This is normal. But the mind craves permanence. So if that's the case, you might have sat there in the waiting room frustrated, angry, and irritated, but it was the mind itself with that longing, yearning, that craving for permanence. So you don't need to feel guilty about this. You don't need to feel shameful. Everybody who's ever been born has experienced the exact same thing. But the Buddha figured out what this is, and he figured out the tools and the techniques to be able to fix it. So you can look in your life and you can see this for yourself. Look at all the times that you were struggling in your life the most. That's when most things were changing. Maybe you were changing living locations. Maybe your relationships were changing. Maybe your job or occupation was changing. Those were times that you were struggling the most. So you can peer into this and you can see it for yourself. Because when that anger is arising in your mind, it's very painful. And what the mind will typically do is it will tend to attribute those painful feelings to something external. So what the mind will tend to do is it'll tend to push people away, or it'll push the situation away. This is called aversion. The mind's acting unskillfully. It firmly believes this person is causing you to be angry, so it'll push this person away or this situation away. You might have done that where you've pushed away friends or family out of your life. And you can see that that didn't actually solve your problem, because if that person was the true cause of your anger, when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. But that's not what occurred. Or the second thing an individual will do when they falsely believe that the problem is external is you'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to fear that being into doing things your way. Or the third thing that'll happen is the mind will try to put its expectations on people and try to pressure them or control them to do things your way. This is the mind trying to get its cravings fulfilled. So as long as you're pushing people away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile, or putting your expectations on people, you can't actually live harmoniously with all beings, because it's only a matter of time before you encounter someone who does things differently than you. If you're with somebody long enough, you will see things that they do differently than you. In fact, there's only one person on this entire earth that does things exactly your way 100% of the time. Do you know who this person is? Who's this person that does things your way 100% of the time? Yourself. You're the only one that does things your way because of impermanence. Everybody does things differently. So if the mind can only love someone who does things your way, there's only one person in the world that you can actually love. In fact, you might have trouble loving that person from time to time too. So that's what this meditation is for. This loving kindness meditation is training your mind to rewire to the point where you can have love and kindness for others, where you can understand that everyone's going to do things differently, and that's okay. You can disagree with someone's choices and decisions while still loving the person. Loving a person means that you have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. They are responsible for their own wellness, but you can have love for them, meaning that you have goodwill or active goodwill towards them, where you can separate the choices and decisions that they make from the person themselves. Now, sometimes when I'm talking about this topic, I usually take this little survey. I would like to see if anybody would like to raise their hand here, because I've never seen anybody raise their hand when I ask this question. How many of you guys have agreed 100% with every single thing your parents have ever done? Anybody at all? I'm just showing you to raise your hand. I didn't agree with my parents. Anybody agree with their parents 100%? Of course not, right? Because they're different people. They've had different experiences than you. So of course they make decisions differently than you. And you make decisions differently than everybody else in the world. And that's okay. That's impermanence. But the mind's going to crave permanence. It's going to want every single person to make decisions a certain way. And you will like people that make decisions your way. That's why at the beginning of the relationship, everything's going so well. Because you haven't seen this person much, you don't know them very well. But then as the relationship goes on, you start seeing things that you disagree with. And now the mind doesn't like this person because they don't do things my way. So you can break through this and see and understand that the world is full of impermanence and everybody's going to make decisions differently. Because again, if you keep pushing people away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile with them, or putting expectations on them, you can't live with anybody other than yourself, because you're the only one who makes decisions your way. Because there's probably people that are doing this to you too. They're probably pushing you away, and they're probably being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, and they might be putting their expectations on you and try to control you. So there's a better way of life here. That's what the Buddha taught. He didn't teach rules and commandments. He didn't teach beliefs. He didn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and prayer. He didn't teach you the way the world should be, and that if everybody follows these rules and commandments, then the world will become a better place. He's teaching you the way the world is. And by understanding the way the world is, through this natural law, and understanding how your mind works and how it functions, you can actually train it to the point where you can control. Because when the mind's angry, sad, feeling stress and anxiety, guilt, shame, and fear, and all these other feelings, you don't actually have control of your mind at that point. And there's the ability for you to get to the point where you fully control your mind, where the anger never arises, where the frustration never arises. You're not suppressing your feelings or repressing them. You're actually eliminating the causes and conditions that are producing them. That's what this path to enlightenment is to understand these natural laws, to understand your mind, to understand what's causing these feelings, and now purifying your mind and training your mind to the point where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful. So I'm going to stop here and see if you guys have any questions, because what I do on Wednesdays is just share a little bit of the teachings of the Buddha with you, and then I open up to whatever questions you guys have, whether you're seeing things here in Thailand with Buddhism or the temples or any kind of things that you're experiencing, whether it's things you're seeing other places, whether you're having personal challenges within your own life. If you'd like to get help with any of these things, I can share the teachings of the Buddha with you guys to be able to help you. If you'd like to ask questions here at the temple, we have microphones in the white bowl in the center of the room. We even even have them up here as well. All you need to do is get a microphone, take it back to your seat, press the gray button. You'll see the lights come on, and then just hold it up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then if you would like to keep these microphones with you, you're more than welcome to, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share it with them. And then if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so that we don't get feedback through the speakers. And then anyone who's on Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, if you would like to ask questions, you can put that in the comment section. I'll be able to see that. Or in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and then ask any and all questions that way. So is there anybody here, anybody online that would like to ask a question? Usually a lot of people are shy. That's part of what the mind experiences. Okay, it looks like Curtis has a question. Go ahead, sir.
David, I have
Hey.
some questions about meditation.
Sure.
Specific to loving kindness meditation. At least for myself, I have a lot of people I would want to put in all these rings. And I think last week you mentioned that you want to maybe stick to maybe 6 to 8 rings per session, where the mind can focus on those beings. But, say I have a list of like 50, how do you prioritize which ones you put in? You start with the ones that you have maybe the most harshness or bitterness towards, or do you start with ones you have less amount and you can try and wean those off first? And then do you still incorporate like the catch-all phrases of like all those who have caused harm, or all those that I have caused harm to? Do you still include that? Or I guess just getting some guidance on how do you just focus on the individuals themselves, or do you still maintain those catch-all buckets?
Sure, I'll help you with that. So let me just share with you guys what Curtis is asking. This loving kindness meditation that I did with you guys, I did it with affirmations that are very general and broad and that apply to everybody, right? I said, may I, mom and dad, family, friends, coworkers, neighbors, all those who have caused me harm, all those I have caused harm to, and then all beings. This is something that I share as a way to guide an entire group of people that will apply to everybody. But what you need to do in order to be able to have this meditation be super effective for you is you're going to need to customize it with rings of people that you already have loving kindness for, to kind of bubble that up, maybe like a ring or two, and then maybe a ring or two of people you're more neutral about, maybe like a specific coworker where you don't exactly hate them, but you don't really love them either. And then you'd like to have a ring that you actually do have anger and hatred and bitterness and hostility towards, maybe even the slightest dislike. You'd like to include these individuals. So the way that this meditation is actually structured, I actually have a visual aid here for you guys, is that you start with you start with I, because you need to have loving kindness for yourself. If you don't know how to have loving kindness for this being, how could you ever have it for anyone else? So you start with I, then you create about 6 to 8 different rings total where you customize it. Like I mentioned, with a being or two that you have loving kindness for, people you're more neutral about, and then people that you actually do have anger and hatred towards. And then eventually you get to all beings, right? So I and all beings, you'd like to keep that in there. And then the middle part, you can actually customize. And you'd like to only maybe focus on about 6 to 8 rings, because anything more than that, the mind kind of has a challenge to be able to address. So whether these people are currently in your life or they're even long gone, they might have actually already been dead. If you're holding on to anger and hostility in your mind, it's only harming your own mind. Sometimes people hold on to resentment and hostility, thinking that you're getting back at that other person, but you're not getting back at them. This is like holding on to a hot coal and trying to burn somebody else. The only person that's getting burned is yourself, right? So you would like to free your mind of this hostility and anger, because it's not just that person that your mind has anger towards. It's other people too. It's coming out in other situations. So you can actually free your mind by customizing these rings. You can use an individual person, or you can actually use a group of people. Like say you have hatred towards all politicians. You can say, may all politicians be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. May all police officers, whatever it is that's in your mind that you're having anger towards, whether it's an individual or a group of people. So as Curtis is saying, he's got quite a few people maybe. He just gave an example. He didn't say it was specific, but he said, look, what if his list is 50, right? He has 50 people. So what you do, Curtis, is you start with a meditation that you've customized, and you can either do the lighter ones first, meaning, because if you're paring your list down from 50, you're only going to really be able to include maybe 3 or 4 in one particular meditation. You can do the lighter ones first, or you can do the more strong ones, the ones that you have a lot of resentment towards. And these individuals are going to need to stay in your meditation for a consistent long-term period until you notice that your mind no longer has this anger and hatred towards them. And then you switch it, right? So what I share with people is you got to ask yourself, what was it like when you were growing up as a child and you went to a swimming pool? Did you used to start in the shallow end and then gradually work your way to the deep end? Or did you just jump into the deep end, right? So for me, I used to just jump into the deep end. So when I first started doing this, I had a lot of resentment towards my mother because I had a lot of expectations growing up as a child, and I had a lot of anger towards her. And of course, that was my own anger. My mom is never going to meet my expectations, just like your family's never going to meet your expectations. The problem is the expectations. You got to get those out of the way. So when I first started this meditation, I had a lot of resentment towards myself too, a lot of inner dialogue that was negative and diminishing and degrading. You might have that as well, where you walk around telling yourself degrading and judgmental, diminishing things. So you like to start with I, and then you can customize this. And I used to do myself 2 or 3 times for each ring. And then I did mom for 2 or 3 rings. And then I would do all beings. And I did that for a good 6 months until I wore away the anger and hostility in my mind. And I knew that this was gone because whenever I would interact with my mom, I was being loving and kind. I wasn't angry. I wasn't frustrated. Where in the past, when we were together, it was only a matter of time before fireworks would go off. So after I took care of that, then I started customizing this and putting other people in this. So this meditation is fluid, but you're going to need multiple days and weeks for any particular being that it is that you have anger and hatred towards. And it's not just the meditation that's going to transform your mind. You can't actually meditate your way to the end of anger and frustration. You need meditation, but you actually need to go out into the world and be loving and kind through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. So this meditation is kind of like filling up the gas tank. And then you go out into the world through your intention, speech, and actions, and you're loving and kind in the way that you interact with people. So I did this meditation for a good 6 months with me and mom. But then when I would interact with mom, I needed to be loving and kind through my intention, speech, and actions. And that's where the Buddha teaches you in other teachings. It's called the Eightfold Path. This is a core central teaching of the Buddha where he helps you to be able to understand how to function in a wise way that would produce wholesome results for you. So I'll just show you guys this image here that you can see. There it is. There's teachings behind each one of these, but he's teaching you how to have wise intentions, wise speech, and wise actions so that when you interact with people, that is producing wholesome results. This isn't rules or commandments. He's showing you the cause and effect between your moral conduct and the way you interact and the way people interact with you. That when you put out bitterness, harshness, and hostility, that's all going to come back to you. But when you're loving and kind and warm and gentle and you function through the way that the Buddha teaches, you'll see that that's what comes back to you more and more and more. But because you've been bitter and harsh and hostile in the past, you can't start practicing this and 1 week later, everybody's going to treat you lovingly. Right? It's going to take gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress, because even when you learn this, it's going to take multiple months and years for you to gradually build your practice up to this, and then you live your life this way for an extended period of time. One of the ways that I think about this Eightfold Path is that if you had a speaker system and you had individual dials and you were tweaking these dials to get a better quality sound out of the speakers, it's the same thing with your mind, that you can tweak these 8 individual dials and get a better and better performing mind. So this kind of helps you, Curtis, that you can customize this, and you would like to kind of either select lighter ones that you can more easily eliminate, and then those people will come out of your meditation more readily. Or if you like to jump in the deep end, you can do like what I did, which is, you put the ones in there that you have a lot of anger and frustration for, work on that. It's going to be a lot of work. But then as you do, then you'll see the progress and you'll know, oh my gosh, this actually works. That's the beauty of the teachings of the Buddha, is that you can see it's working in this life, that you're not believing and hoping something good happens when you die. You're learning, growing, and developing in this life and seeing the improvement in this life.
Thank you. I have one more question.
Sure.
It's okay. In the last statement of may all beings be peaceful, be well, be safe. All beings, is that referring to all beings in all realms, the animal, afflicted spirit, hell, heaven, and human realms?
Yes, that's true. All beings.
Okay.
Mm.
I guess right now, because I don't have the wisdom to be able to verify the beings in the hell, heaven, and afflicted spirits realm, should I just not worry about that in terms of like, I can't validate that, but I should still have loving kindness to them during this meditation?
Yeah, what I teach people when they first get started is to set aside the cycle of rebirth and the 5 realms of existence, because this is something that you can independently verify. But right up front, oftentimes people don't have the wisdom of how to do that. So it's best to just set it aside and just know that when you're doing this meditation, that is what it's for. Because at some point in your journey in life, you might actually encounter some of these beings, and now you can have loving kindness towards them.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome, Curtis. Sure. Yes, ma'am. I saw she had a microphone. If you'd like to get a mic, you can get a mic. Yes, ma'am.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Sure can.
Thank you for the teachings. I've got a question. I noticed every time we do loving kindness meditation together, you always use the same pattern, general pattern, as you said, peaceful, safe, well. I was wondering if you think about someone who needs something else, like good health or anything else, without wanting to change the person. Do you introduce also other things you could wish for someone? Or this is always this general pattern?
Yeah, this isn't a wish for somebody else to accomplish anything particular. This is actually for your mind, to rewire your mind to think in more loving and kind ways towards this individual. And what you're doing is you're using what's called non-burdening statements, because oftentimes what people are taught in the world is don't respect anybody else until they respect you first. If you've been taught this is very unwise, because if everybody's actually practicing that, nobody would be respecting anybody, because somebody would say, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. And then you'd be like, well, I'm not going to respect you until you respect me. And now nobody's respecting anybody, right? So if you did the same thing with your loving kindness, nobody would be having loving kindness for anybody. So an enlightened being doesn't conform to what other people are doing. You'd like to break through this so that you can actually have loving kindness with people unconditionally. That's what love is. It's unconditional love. What people are misunderstanding in the world is they're actually practicing something that is not love. If you're falling in love with people and out of love with people, or if you think love is painful and love hurts, you're not understanding what love is. And this is one of the reasons why you're having challenges in your relationships. Because once you understand what love is you can't fall in love and out of love with people. And you understand that love isn't actually what's causing your painful feelings. It's craving, desire, attachment. It's longing, yearning, which is causing the painful feelings. So oftentimes people meet, they start to get to know each other. Early on in the relationship, the expectations are very low. You're just interested to get to know this person. And after a few months, you might say, I've fallen in love with you. And they say, I've fallen in love with you too. Oh my gosh, we are in love, right? And now you start acting like you love this person. You function like you love this person. You talk as if you love this person. But then over time, as your expectations grow, this person isn't meeting your expectations anymore. And you're getting angry and frustrated. And you think it's the other person who's causing that anger and frustration. And you guys might break up and you say, I don't love you anymore. And now they say, I don't love you anymore either. And now you break up and now you're bitter and angry and harsh and hostile with each other. There's no such thing as conditional love, but we might call that conditional love. That if you do things my way, I will say I love you and I will function like I love you and I will do things as if I love you. But when you stop doing things my way, I don't love you anymore, and I'm not going to treat you like I love you anymore. So there's no such thing as conditional love, but we might call that conditional love. Really what that is craving, desire, attachment, wants, and expectations masquerading as love. What you would like to get to is unconditional love, where someone doesn't have to meet any conditions in order for you to love them. They don't earn your love, so therefore there's nothing that you can do to fall out of love with this person. Because this conditional love that isn't truly love, what the mind's saying is, I love you, therefore I want you to be with me because you make me happy, right? It's all about me, me, me. What unconditional love is I love you as you are. I have love for you. I would like to see you be well. That's true love, where you don't put expectations on people and you don't try to control them or force them or pressure them to do things your way. But when you're getting painful feelings, when you see somebody struggling, the mind thinks that the way to solve these painful feelings is to get that person to do things my way. But that actually doesn't work, because you're still going to experience painful feelings because your expectations aren't getting met. So you need to separate the choices and decisions that people make from the person themselves, where you can love them unconditionally. That's why I come here each day to share teachings with the students, because I love you. I would like to see you be well. I understand what it's like to live with anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other feelings. And I would like to provide you an opportunity to be able to understand how to escape all of that. So what this meditation is doing is it's helping you get closer to unconditional love, where you don't have any condition met in order to actually love this person, where you're not wanting and expecting or wishing or hoping that this person will be a certain way, but you just have a genuine interest in seeing them be well. So like if I said, may mom be kind, that means mom has to do something in order for me to have loving kindness for her, right? May mom be happy, right? She has to do something. But here it's just saying, hey, may she be peaceful, safe, well, and free of discontentedness. This is not putting anything in my mind like a condition that she has to meet a certain condition before I will be loving and kind for her. So this isn't invoking some power to try to change mom or give her some kind of benefits or something. It's purely for your own mind, so you think in more loving and kind ways towards these beings, so that then when you're around them, you can function through your intention, speech, and actions in a more loving way. And that's where the real transformation is happening. This meditation, it's preparing your mind to be loving and kind. But whether you go out into the world and actually be loving and kind, that's a whole separate decision for you. And that's where the Eightfold Path comes in, and the Buddha teaches you how to do that, because that's where the real transformation occurs, is in your day-to-day interactions. Because you can sit in your room by yourself, meditating, thinking all kinds of lovingly thoughts about everybody and anybody in the world. But then when you go outside and you start meeting with all this impermanence, where people aren't doing things your way, that's where the mind has a lot of trouble and difficulty. So that's where the real transformation needs to occur, is in your day-to-day interactions. And this type of meditation will help you not burden other people with having to do something before you'll be loving and kind with them. I saw some other people get some mics back there. You still have a question? Yeah, you have a microphones here and they're back there as well. Yes, ma'am.
So thank you for teaching us.
Are you going to take it? Okay. She was going to go back there.
Oh yeah, it works. Thanks for the lessons today. It really helps me a lot. I'm frustrated about my parents because my mom and dad, they argue to each other and I want to divorce recently. And I know it's not my own business and I can take mind their mind or something, but I still feel very frustrated about that, because it's basically because of my things they want to divorce. And I know I have to take care of my own mind and take care of my own life, not theirs. I know they love me, but it's really frustrating to see they argue to each other at home.
Okay. So would you like me to reply to you and help you? I see you're looking at something, you're probably translating from your language to English, right?
Also, my mom always blame me and my dad because all her suffering because of me and my dad caused that, and I'm really heartbroken to her about that. This lesson teach me I have to mind, like I can take my own decision and make my own mind,
Mm-hmm.
and it really helps a lot. So thanks for the lessons today.
Okay. So you would like me to help you to understand?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I would recommend for you is you need to be able to understand what's causing your painful feelings. What's causing your painful feelings is the craving for permanence. Because if you don't understand what's causing your feelings, you can never actually eliminate it and work with it skillfully, right? So the mind's craving for permanence. The mind wants mom and dad to be together permanently and wants mom and dad to never argue, right? This is the permanence that the mind is craving. And now when the mind experiences impermanence, which is the potential of mom and dad breaking up or mom and dad arguing, whether that's wise or unwise, that's a whole nother question. But what's causing your mind to experience this frustration is that craving for permanence. So you need to be able to see that. And the Buddhist teachings on the Eightfold Path is what's going to train your mind to eliminate that. You're going to need to learn each one of those factors and implement it in your day-to-day life. And that's what's actually going to transform your mind. Whether mom and dad stay together or not, that's a decision for mom and dad to make, right? And even if they stay together, it actually doesn't solve your problem because the problem is inside the mind where the mind's craving permanence. That's what you need to be able to eliminate and understand that whatever's going on with mom and dad, that's their life and that's their choices. And whatever choices they're making, they're going to experience the results of those choices. You can get free of your craving and your frustration and agitation by eliminating that holding on and craving permanence. So that first meditation we did with the breathing mindfulness meditation, where we were focused on the breath, and anytime the mind moves off the breath, you cut that off and let it go and come back. That's actually training your mind to let go. That's what that's for. And there's other training too, like generosity, that trains your mind to let go as well. So there's multiple teachings that you need in order to train your mind to let go. But that breathing mindfulness meditation, you can actually do that as a standalone meditation. That's a primary form of training that the Buddha used in addition to other things to be able to train the mind to let go. So we put it at the beginning and at the end of loving kindness meditation to kind of prepare the mind and then kind of bring the mind out of loving kindness meditation. But oftentimes people do that as a standalone meditation because the mind's holding on and holding on and holding on, and it craves this permanence. So if you train consistently with the breathing mindfulness meditation and the other factors of the Eightfold Path, the mind will let go. And you also need generosity too, because when your mind has craving, desire, attachment, which every unenlightened mind has, then the mind's holding on. And it oftentimes becomes somewhat selfish, where it's not willing to give and share with other people. So the Buddha teaches generosity as a way to help you to train your mind to let go. So if you practice giving and sharing with the people around you without any expectation of anything in return, that will actually help your mind to let go. So if you notice, everything that I'm sharing with you is not about how to keep mom and dad together, because mom and dad are making that decision for themselves. Their relationship is impermanent. Even if they're together for the rest of their life, that relationship is impermanent. Everything that I'm sharing with you is to be able to help you to train your mind, because that's the only thing that you can actually gain control over. You can't control other people and what they choose to do. So that's why the Buddha focuses everything you learn on training your own mind. So if you learn that Eightfold Path that I showed, I'm going to be teaching it this Sunday and next Sunday. Those 2 Sundays together is actually the entire Eightfold Path. But I've taught it many times, and you can find it on our YouTube channel, on our podcast. You can find it in our books and everything else. And in fact, next week, for any of those of you guys that are around, I'm going to be teaching a course from Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's called Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment, where it's all the foundational teachings that you need to really get on the path to enlightenment. And you'll be able to understand the teachings that it's going to take to help start transforming your mind. And it's all available, like I mentioned, at no cost. So that's what I would recommend for you. Is this first book is a great place to start, where you can get this for free by downloading it from our website. You can take it and go print it. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon if your country has access to Amazon. And if you travel, you can actually come into our live stream through Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom. And that way, even as you travel, you can learn. And even if you can't attend live, you can actually watch the recordings. So I've removed all the obstacles for everybody. If you would like to get onto the path to enlightenment and learn how to train your mind, you're going to need to put determination, dedication, and diligence into this. But there's no obstacles stopping you other than your own effort, your own energy. If you learn and grow and develop on the path, you'll see that these teachings actually work. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. You have a question?
Thank you. Thank you for spending time teaching us.
Mm-hmm.
So my question is very simple. So you talked about we should breathe in from nose and breathe out from the nose too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What's different if I breathe in from my mouth and breathe out from my nose?
Mm-hmm.
So what is the best way to do meditation?
You can actually do meditation either way, through breathing through your nose or breathing through your mouth. But most often people are going to breathe through your nose because it kind of creates a sound that your mind can actually focus on, so that you can hear that where, it doesn't have the same sound as, so that sound is like your post or your pillar. But, some people don't have a nose, right? Some people don't breathe through their nose. So that's why with impermanence, you can understand that it's possible to train your mind in other ways. But if you're able to breathe through your nose, you would like to breathe through your nose because it's going to create that post or pillar for your mind to connect to that post or pillar. Because your mind is like wild animal. Right? Like if you had a post or pillar and you had wild animals that are tied to this post or pillar, those wild animals are going to pull and pull and pull. And when it gets to the end of that rope, it's going to get yanked back to the post or pillar, right? And eventually as the animals pull and pull and pull, and they keep getting yanked back to the post and pillar, eventually they're going to sit down and be calm next to that post and pillar. The same thing is true about your mind. As it's pulling and pulling in meditation, but also in day-to-day life, if you keep yanking it back and yanking it back and yanking it back, eventually your mind's going to calm down. It's going to sit down by that post or pillar. So the breath is the post or pillar that you're anchoring your mind to. So the goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. It's not to eliminate them. Oftentimes people think it's to eliminate your thoughts. It's not that. Everybody will have thoughts during meditation, including enlightened beings. But the difference is that unenlightened beings will have a bombardment of thoughts, or they will have a thought, they will indulge in that thought, and they'll follow that thought for a period of time before they realize they're meditating and then coming back to the breath. Where an enlightened being will notice their thought and cut it off and let it go right away. And then there's quietness and stillness in between their thoughts. So you would like to use the breath as your anchor, as your post, and then anytime the mind pulls, you yank it back. This is developing your mindfulness or your awareness of mind. So you're aware that the mind is moved. And now when you cut it off and let it go, you're training your mind to let go. So if 15, 20, 30 times during your meditation, you had to let go, this is actually very good for your mind because the mind doesn't know how to let go. That's why when you broke up with your boyfriend or girlfriend, you were angry for a period of time. You were lonely or bored, but at some point you let go. You were like, you know what? If she wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. Or if he wants to live in a different part of the world, so be it. And you let go. And that's where your mind actually regained its peace and its joy. But the mind doesn't know how to let go in the unenlightened state. And that's why you're using this meditation and breathing mindfulness meditation, and then the generosity to be able to help you to let go. And you need to be able to bring your mind back to that post or pillar. And that's what's going to train your mind to let go.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. You're welcome. Okay, we have a question coming in from Zoom. This is from Steve. He says, I find it challenging to fully internalize the universal truth of non-self. Everything is constantly changing, so there is no permanent self. but I exist and interact with the world around me. Even as I am constantly changing, the world is constantly changing around me. Can you help me understand this truth more fully? Okay, so the universal truth of non-self, this is a solution to one of the problems that the Buddha discovered in the mind. One of the problems that the Buddha discovered is it's called personal existence view. This is where the mind clings to a self-image or a self-identity. It clings to your body, it clings to your mind, craving for this to be permanent, clinging to it to be permanent. And the mind wants to be perceived by others in a certain way. And you can only feel comfortable if you're being perceived by others the way you want to be perceived. So for example, if you've ever been in a social situation and you spilled something on your clothing and you got embarrassed by that, that's your personal existence view, because you want to be perceived by others in a certain way and you're not being perceived that way. Or say you looked in a mirror and you saw a wrinkle or a pimple or a mole or a gray hair, or you started losing your hair and you were shaken up by that. That's your personal existence view. The mind wants to be perceived by others in a certain way, clinging to this body, thinking that this is who you are, clinging to this self-image. You might have even changed clothes and looked in the mirror and like, no, I can't go outside looking like that. And then you changed to some other clothes and finally you got the clothes that you wanted to wear. And then you went outside, you're like, okay, I feel comfortable wearing this, right? So your mind does this with the body wanting to be perceived by others a certain way. As a kid, I used to get gel and mousse. I'd run it through my hair. I tried to get every little hair in exactly the right spot. And I couldn't go to school until I did this. And sometimes I would do this so long, I would miss the school bus, right? So the mind's doing this with the body, but it's also doing it with your identity and your mind too. You could be clinging to your culture, your ethnicity, your sexual orientation, your nationality, your job or occupation of who you think you are as a person. So maybe I am American, or I am Chinese, I am German, I am Lithuanian, I am Mexican, I am Spanish, any of this I am. And now you're at a restaurant and 2 tables over, they say all Americans are lovely and kind and warm and gentle. I've never heard this before, but maybe somebody might say that. And now you're like, wow, they're talking about me because I'm American, right? But then it's only a matter of time because of impermanence. 2 tables over, someone's going to say something degrading and disparaging about your nationality. And now you're frustrated, you're angry, you're irritated. So as long as your mind clings to any identity of who you think you are, you can only be comfortable when you're being perceived in the world the way you want to be perceived. Think back to when you had that boyfriend or girlfriend, since we've been talking about that for a while, that if you thought, I am a boyfriend, I am a girlfriend, I am a husband, I am a wife. Well, when you guys were together, there was a certain amount of comfort. But when you guys broke up and now you're single, your mind didn't identify that way. It identified with I'm a boyfriend, I'm a girlfriend. And you might have felt like you wanted to hurry up and get right back into another relationship because the mind thought if I reassume this identity, I'll feel better. But the problem is the personal existence view. The mind's clinging to this identity, this role of I am a boyfriend, I'm a girlfriend, is who you think you are as a person. So the universal truth of non-self teaches you that none of this stuff is you. This body is not you, this mind is not you, and it trains your mind to let go of clinging to this, wanting it to be permanent and wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way. So the universal truth of non-self is not denying the fact that there is a being in existence. There's a physical body, there's a mind, it's come together for this existence, and we call that a person, right? It's not denying that. What it's helping you to be able to do is train your mind to not cling to this self-image or this self-identity, wanting to be perceived by others in a certain way, that you can drop all of this. Because when somebody says something degrading and disparaging about Americans, for example, since I was born in the USA, I don't get upset because they're not talking about me, because this mind doesn't identify that way, right? This body was born on a land that we refer to as the USA, but the mind doesn't have to adopt the identity of I am American. I can sit here and teach you guys the teachings of the Buddha, but my mind doesn't have to identify with I am a Buddhist teacher, Because when people say something fond of Buddhist teachers, I'd feel all happy and excited because they're talking about me. But it's only a matter of time before somebody says something degrading and disparaging about Buddhist teachers, right? And now you're frustrated or angry. So I can fulfill a role without allowing my mind to adopt that identity of who I think I am as a person, because all these things are going to change. In fact, one of the things that people sometimes do is they adopt an identity around their illness or any certain decisions that they made. So like in the past, if you use drugs and alcohol, you might think now, I am an alcoholic. I am an addict, right? And you might feel guilty and shameful about that, but you can let that go. Those decisions that you made however many years ago doesn't define who you are today as a person. Someone might adopt that identity of I am an addict or I am an alcoholic. And I understand why people do that, because they're not interested in ever going back to that ever again. But you can train your mind to understand that, yes, you made choices and decisions in the past to use drugs and alcohol, but that doesn't define who you are as a person today. But the mind is going to adopt that as who you think you are. So the universal truth of non-self is helping you to understand, to strip all that away. And then there's certain tools and techniques to help you be able to do it. The universal truth of non-self is just giving you the intellectual understanding that you need to understand that this body and mind is not you. And then there's certain techniques and tools that you use to be able to strip that away out of the mind, so you no longer identify with any of these things as who you are. Okay? Let me see if we have any other questions. Okay, I don't see any other questions anywhere. So what I'll do then is I will just end by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and understand the teachings of the Buddha. As you guys would like to learn more, you're welcome to learn more. This is just kind of an informal class where I just teach a little bit, do some meditation with you guys, and open up for any and all questions that you guys would like to understand. But there's more in-depth opportunities for you guys to learn. In fact, on Friday, we have a social event at 6 p.m. You guys are welcome to come here. It's called Temple Fun Night, where we play games and hang out. It's like a little party every Friday that we spend time here with community members. On Saturday, we have our Pali Canon and English study group, and we have an introduction to the teachings of the Buddha. If you're looking for just a short little course, it's a 3-hour course where you're going to be able to learn what are the teachings of the Buddha, what the teachings of the Buddha are not, and the very first teaching of the Buddha. I'm going to start that at 1 o'clock on Saturday here at the temple. And then on Sundays, we have our group learning program. And then all next week, we have our course of Foundation and the Path to Enlightenment. And even on Sunday evening at 6:30, synced up with the Sunday night walking market, we have meditation here as well. So you guys are welcome to come to any of these events, and you'll see them on our bulletin board over there. And you'll also see them on our website. If you go to our website, you'll see our events calendar. So whatever you choose to do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Take care. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.